Jose here from Training Please. Loose leash walking supercharged. I am going to give you some of my best suggestions on the topic. Let's go. 1. The behavior criteria should be for the dog to walk nicely without pulling, but not in a heel position. For me, this means walking on my left without tension on the leash. I do not mind if the dog is slightly forward or slightly backwards from where I am. As long as the dog is in the sweet spot, it is happy days. 2. When teaching loose leash walking, forget about going from point A to point B. The idea is to have the dog learn to walk on a loose leash, not to go around the block. We are aiming for as many steps as possible without tension on the leash. 3. Forward movement with tension on the leash will reinforce the behavior of pulling. Even tiny little movements from your arm or shoulder can reinforce the dog for pulling. 4. It is better to just go about the walks as training sessions so that we prevent pulling getting reinforced. Think about the walk and what you might encounter that can trigger pulling. Ideally, engage with the dog before it happens. This is more efficient than to try to address it once pulling is already happening. Reinforcement should be delivered for the correct behavior, loose leash walking, before mistakes, tension on the leash, happens. 5. Work on high levels of engagement to create loose leash walking. Food reinforcers can and should be used to initially reinforce the behavior of loose leash walking with a high rate of reinforcement. Later on, we can slowly make the transition to using environmental components as reinforcers, likely the same ones that trigger pulling for most dogs, such as sniffing trees, etc. It is okay to cue the dog to go sniff so that you can use these life reinforcers for loose leash walking. It is now time for you to offer me some positive reinforcement by clicking the like button under the video. If you want heaps more content on dog and cat training, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. Now back to it. 6. Be consistent and maintain criteria. If maintaining criteria is difficult because your dog already has a long history of pulling, you might need to use the two-device approach. I have another video that covers that content and I will link it in the description. Basically, when the leash is connected to our official no-pull option, we maintain criteria at all times. If we anticipate that pulling is likely to happen, we should switch the attachment point. For example, if there is a section of the walk that we know the dog is very likely to pull, we can attach the leash to the harness if that is our option for when pulling is okay. A behavior consultant or dog trainer can certainly help you with those considerations. 7. Pay a lot of attention to your dog so that you can offer guidance in the presence of a distraction. See the squirrel, or for us here in Australia, the possum, before your dog does and adjust accordingly. Your dog might be okay if the distraction is at 30 meters distance, for example. That same distraction at 5 or 10 meter distance might be more likely to cause leash pulling. The look at that game is a good option here. More info in the description under the video. 8. If your dog is always looking at you, teach looking forward and enjoying the walk. A lot of the exercises I teach are aimed at generating good engagement so that we can start moving forward without tension on the lead. When that is already happening very consistently, you might want to teach the dog to look forward. Sometimes I will mark and reinforce when the dog checks in, and other times when she looks forward. If your dog has a much stronger preference for one of these two behaviors, you might want to reinforce the other option a little more. Loose leash walking is actually a pretty complex behavior. I personally find it more complex than teaching simple behaviors such as sitting, or even some more elaborate behaviors such as coming when called. I do not always choose to prioritize this behavior, and I am certainly not perfect at it. So don't be too harsh on yourself if you have a dog that pulls. Most do, and all we can do is to try to offer them a comfortable life to the best of our ability. If you want to show your support for the work that I do here, one fun and easy way is to simply buy me a coffee. Link in the description below. I've got a few other videos that will go over why dogs pull and also the best exercises to teach them to walk on a loose lead. Check them out. And that's a wrap. Até a próxima, pessoal. Tchau!